السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه وسلم، والحمد لله رب العالمين. آمين. عايشة اليونت. Yeah. If you volunteer, some. Second.
So we are reading the reasoning, page 5 for us, the last paragraph, starting with secondly. Secondly, the laws and systems made by humans cannot satisfy the perennial needs and expectations of humanity. The laws and systems made by humans cannot satisfy the perennial needs and expectations of humanity, nor properly restrict its innate aggression, train its faculties appropriately, or correctly guide its potential and disposition to development or progress. Just read that one more time. The laws and systems made by humans cannot satisfy the perennial needs and expectations of humanity, nor properly restrict humanity's innate aggression, train humanity's faculties appropriately, or correctly guide humanity's potential and disposition to development or progress. This latter is inherent in the tendency of the whole of creation to achieve perfection. Human laws and systems are almost lifeless and do not last, even though they are based on the accumulated knowledge and experiences of humanity over the course of history. They are unable to cause the seeds of potential in humanity to grow properly or to yield sound fruit. Even though human laws and systems are based on the accumulated knowledge and experiences of humanity over the course of history, these human laws and systems are unable to cause the seeds of potential in humanity to grow properly or to yield sound fruit. For this reason, humanity desperately needs a divine law which will enable its happiness both spiritually and intellectually and physically, both in this world and the next. Humanity desperately needs a divine law which will enable its happiness both spiritually and intellectually and physically, both in this world and the next. This law must also guide humanity along the way to the attainment of human perfection through the realization of its potentials. It is the prophets who brings us this living, life-endowing, everlasting divine law.
What we notice here, in order to confirm this paragraph, I mean, we need some prerequisites. What are they? First,
we have to define what the expectations of humanity is. That it refers to.
yeah, but more fundamental than this. For example, we have to what I meant by, what you said is right. What I meant by prerequisites, that we have to accept that we are created. Step one. Step two, we have to accept that our creator is, limitless, timeless, and the creator of the whole universe within its space and time. And also, we have to accept that the creator knows human nature, and he has constructed human nature in such a way that he needs human nature. It needs to be satisfied, not he. It needs to be satisfied not only in this world, but for an eternal world. And we have to accept that this creator must be able to bring the eternal life. And also, we have to be convinced that he, the creator, will bring it according to evidences in the world. As I listen to what, hey, she's walking, unbelievable, miracle, isn't it? Now everything is miracle, but mashallah, welcome. The baby, that's life, huh? We are all developing, improving our life standards, and then getting ready to live. Now, after being convinced about the reality, the truthfulness of these prerequisites, then we can talk about the content of this paragraph. And it really makes sense only after that. But our subject is not related to these prerequisites because we have studied them, we have been through them. So we will concentrate on the content of the paragraph today and maybe emphasize on the importance of certain vocabulary. For example, the first sentence starts with a claim, which says, laws and systems made by human beings, cannot satisfy the perennial needs and the expectations of humanity. Why, ladies? Sorry?
So the laws and systems made by humans are transient, or are based off of a limited perspective. But the perennial needs and expectations of humanity are exceed these bounds that are sort of structured on limited time perspectives.
So I missed your last point, and also that. So last point.
So while the laws and systems made by humans are based off of a limited time frame or perspective, and as opposed to the perennial needs and expectations of humanity, which need something based off of more that are based off of universal understanding.
Yeah, but I was going to ask this actually. I took note as well. Perennial means universal. Universal in which terms? Space and time. It should comprehend all human beings at all times. So we have to ask the question, what or who can know it? What can know it? Do you think the universe can know it, or natural development, evolvement can know it? How it is going to evolve? Human nature, because it is natural, as they claim, how it is going to evolve so that they will prepare human nature laws accordingly. Let's say 1 million years later, humanity will become like this. So I have to prepare a permanent universal law for them if they are conscious, if they have the ability to do it. What? Nature. What is nature? The things themselves, isn't it? So we understand that the nature or the accidental developments, although these accidental developments are taking place within an order. It's very interesting. This is not our subject, but it's very interesting. They say evolution is taking place in an order. But from the very beginning of the creation, that's what the philosophers claim. It is evolving within an order. Okay? But it is accidentally developing within an order. Do you notice that? Not consciously, not purposefully. Do you really see what I'm saying? But they claim from one side the matter doesn't have conscious, matter doesn't have purpose, but on the flip side of the argument, development or evolving the living beings is taking within an order. Do you see the contradiction? Yes or no?
Sometimes it's hard
No?
to,
Sorry?
I mean, I see the problem with it, but it's hard really to. I find it challenging, I guess, to.
Which one is challenging?
When you ask the question, do you see the contradiction? I see the problem in the language, but so I guess the issue is, how do you have something accidental implying something that's random without any meaning, and then also at the same time being completely appearing to have meaning?
First of all, within the vocabulary of materialistic language, there is no meaning.
Right.
That is, eliminate that. So what's happening? They cannot deny the order because they are trying to find the order in the development of everything, in the working of everything. They cannot deny it. It's out there, and their very existence is based on the order in the universe. If there was no order in the universe, what are you investigating?
Sure.
In which terms? Is it accidental happening here and there? Just leave it. But this is undeniable. No one can deny that there is order in the universe. But if you attribute this order to matter itself, you have to cover up with some sort of language. How? How you have to cover up? Order happened to be as a result of random happenings.
Yeah.
So without any shame, which is very shameful, they claim that the order came out of chaos. Why? Chaos turned into order by chance. And this order is universal. The order order has come out of chaos by chance, but everywhere, with no exception. At every time, with no exception. Even the time, or alongside with the time, the evolution or improvement, progress of the order is taking place. It is taking place again within an order. It is worse than a legend. How? Show me one thing, one evidence in anything that chaotic turns into order by chance. Not chaos-like things are happening within an order, not by chance, within an order deliberately designed. Even, for example, hurricane. They know that hurricane is coming because it's happening within an order. It is moving from this way to this way. It is diminishing. It is increasing, whatever the strength of the hurricane. Why? Because it's happening by order, within an order. Those outward events or the happenings in the universe, which looks like a disorder or chaotic, they have an order. You can, if human beings work on it, they can find the rules of the order in their existence. Even if you pour water in it, when it's split, it splashes around. Looks like not within order. No, if you make the mathematical calculations properly, you know how many drops will this way, because it is taken within an order. There is nothing happening in a chaos. So this contradiction, what they do, they just made up with no evidence whatsoever, saying that however it happened like this, that accidental explosion turned it into an order. There's no evidence. Now, why did we get this? We have to accept that as a human being, as we observe and experience the world, we have to admit and accept that this world is deliberately put into an order by a conscious being in order to fulfill a purpose. The witness is the universe itself. The second sentence or the third, no, second sentence will say, this latter is inherent in the tendency of the whole of creation. It is inherent in the tendency of the whole of creation, means it is manifested, demonstrated by the whole of universe. We are not saying that the scripture told us this, right? We are observing the universe. That is the universe, how the universe witnesses that it is inherent in it is. It means I'm amazed with the language that the people who don't believe in the purposeful creation and therefore a wise creator, They say, yes, everything is taking place within an order on one side, and there is no purpose in this order. They are not ashamed of this sentence. There is no purpose in the order, but it is taking place, everything is taking place within an order, which is the outcome of an accident, turning the chaos into an order. Why do they emphasize that there is no purpose in creation? Have you ever thought about it? There is no purpose in existence. They don't use the word creation.
If the only circumstance where that can actually be considered true is if you look for that purpose within the creation itself. So I guess if you limit your understanding or limit your research to perhaps the matter itself, then you're ignoring other aspects of creation.
And this is the root of it. Why do you think they emphasize that there is no purpose in creation? So that is interesting for us. It means there is no purpose in the existence of human beings as well. So we are living here not for a purpose, because just we happen to be here and we are going to die and disappear. What is the purpose in being or existing within this condition? You are born and came into existence as a result of these billions of years of evolving within an order and dying and disappearing. But there is no purpose because of this, there is no another type of creation at all. All human expectations of the human feelings will fall into despair, into vain, meaningless. Just your make-up stories. Why do they insist that there is no purpose in creation?
Because purpose necessitates a conscious will behind it. Because if there's a purpose, then there must be something that established that purpose. There must be a conscious will behind that purpose, and that goes beyond the universe.
The second part, let's go step by step. Purpose definitely necessitates the conscious will, right? And the matter came into being by itself. Do they have consciousness or conscious will? Is there any sign for it? That's why they have to deny that there is no conscious will. Therefore, there is no purpose. But it is an absolute contradiction, dilemma. There's no conscious will, therefore there is no purpose. But at the same time, everything is as if developing into a perfection with a purpose to reach this perfection. Look at the logic. Look at the logic. I think we have to be careful about this kind of philosophy. Why? Because all the social structure of the societies, all the subject here, specific subject is laws and any kind of institutions within the society, within the life of the society, is based on these philosophies. the elements we talked about, the articles we talked, steps by step, what is required or what are required in order to study this paragraph we read today, this and this and this and this, we listed the steps. We have to look for a reason or evidence to legitimize what we claim as the prerequisites to understand this text. That our witness is, here is the universe. But their witness is legend, tales. It might, I don't know how, but it happened like this. It is possible that it may turn, the chaos may turn into an order, and order will develop, order will produce another order, order will produce another order. The whole universe will start working in another order. Any chaos turning itself into an order is producing another order, and it is related area. I mean, you see what I mean? Atom developed an order, and the molecules became into existence as a result of order again within the interaction of the atoms. And molecules developed into, again, organs, for example, human organs or the living body's organs, again, developed into an order. Is there any evidence for it? Or, for example, something is really developing itself into an order? No. But that's how, the answer is, that's how it seems to be. They give some examples in order to justify this about the crystals, how the crystals happened. But that's the detail, just made up story. Just the detail, just to show that they have some evidence. Crystals may take place within an order. But crystals are taking place within an order by themselves, or because they are given existence to act in this way by a conscious being within the order, drawn or developed or introduced to their existence by a conscious will. So you will crystallize in this way. And that is the order. We have to use our brain. I know the subject is getting more subtle for those people who are not familiar with the subject. It is the way of trying to invent a kind of evidence that they can convince people. How can I make an excuse to convince people that what I'm saying will sound scientifically correct?
Sound.
Or, sorry?
Sound.
Yeah. Scientifically sound. They give example from the creation center. Look, it is taking place, for example, within an order by itself. But, for example, a baby is growing, you see, mashallah. So it is growing within an order. How? Because of some things in the cell or DNA structure is so perfect. How is it perfect? How it becomes? Through lots of unanswered questions. But they are using, usually what they do, they use the order within the universe, already existing order within the universe, and see them as developing into an order in a chaotic way, purposeful way. That chaotic way without any purpose, because her genes are like this. Another example. Her genes have this, if you like, codes in it. How the codes are functioning within an order, because it is inherent in them. They are innate in them. How come that this characteristics or the qualities of the gene or the DNA structure became a productive cause of an orderly existence in the future? How? What was the motive behind it? What was the actor behind it? No answer. They used the order in order to legitimize their theory of order out of chaos. Do you see the trick? Logical trick? Do you understand or not?
No, I understand. I guess the other part that I see here is they're not really trying to explain.
They are not?
They're not really trying to explain.
No,
How-
you don't get the word. They are not really
trying to explain how things necessarily came into existence. All they really are trying to focus on is describing the order. And because they think that they can describe perfectly the order that they observe, that they have power or
the inherent power, the meta inherent power. No.
The matter does, but history is not necessarily good to go into. But there's when somebody's claims somebody's claims about the creation or about how the creation is ordered can be rejected. It makes things very easy later on to just ignore anything about that. So how do I?
No, can you? I think using as the am I wrong or did I misunderstand you? Correct me if I did misunderstand you. How things came into existence? Did they discuss this matter? No.
They go backwards. So they go forward first. They skip this part, and then they use what they observe now, and then go back.
So, can anyone bring up a reasonable explanation to the question of how things from the very beginning are coming into existence? They have no whatsoever, neither answer nor claim to have an answer at all. After finding out the things in existence and using the evidence of the order within the existing elements, they say we explain the world. Do you see the trick?
Yeah.
Do you see the trick? You look at it like that.
Because the claim that they make, I guess, is then again coming from observation of the world. The claim that they make is around the Big Bang, but the Big Bang is also a series of speculations.
Whatever. Big Bang is one theory.
Yeah.
One theory.
What exists now. And they trace it back, saying it could have been, or based on how we exist now, this is how we may have started.
Now, what they say, the only thing we don't know, and we don't have any reason to explain, we have no evidence how the first explosion started and became something we call matter, started exploding and spreading and turning. This is what we don't know. But afterwards, we know everything. It's a huge claim with no evidence whatsoever.
But they at least have observable evidence from their
About?
theories, which is like they at least have physical evidence and theories which they can replicate in a lab or whatever to explain at least whatever it is they're explaining. So there are very well-known scientists who may be or may not be atheists who say, yeah, I don't know what happened at the beginning, but I at least see what I see today.
No, but they use.
And they get stuck in
use already existing matter, already existing order. They don't admit that they are just discovering the order, which is already created in a purposeful way by a conscious will. But if you don't say, for example, if you don't say this machine has been made by a conscious will, and it is put in a perfect order, and then say that I'm studying how the computer works. While they are studying, this is an important point, while they are studying the physical actions of the computer, what is going on in the computer, they say it is happening purposefully, purposelessly, within an order. I know it is happening within an order, but this order has been established by a conscious will. So they ignore the beginning, deliberately skip out the beginning and say, this happens by itself, this happens by itself, this is natural. All the interpretations they assign to explain what they are discovering is philosophically, logically mentioned, sort of based on happening by itself. This is ridiculous. As we mentioned earlier, just a little bit before you made the comment, they say we are studying the physical world. By now I admit that they are discovering what is already created by a conscious will. So that, for example, I think you have studied in the school system, in the education system. Have you ever read even one sentence in physics, chemistry, biology, which says that is prepared by a conscious will, infers to it what they say? It happens. It results in this itself. Can you justify their claim of their philosophical view of interpretation, how the things are happening, by neglecting that everything deliberately given existence by a conscious will? The order also was established by this conscious will. There is no sign in their language of interpreting the events. But what they do, they really find out how the order is working. Yeah. But interpret it by attributing it to the matter itself. That's the problem. I'm not saying that the things are not working in this way. No one can claim that computer is working as I am using it in this way. This is the order of the computer. There is no problem there. You can discover new functions of new keys, combination of keys, whatever. If you use this one and this one at the same time, the third one, it happens like this. Now, okay, but how can I claim that this computer was not first, primarily brought into existence, but it's in the computer example, existence doesn't work, it already exists. But the universe was not or is not being brought into existence by a conscious being, They don't take notice of this. And also, the one who brought this universe into existence by a conscious being, the one who did it with his conscious being, put the universe into a perfect order, which is universal. This order is universal. Not only in part and the other side is scattered, universal, all comprehensive, with no exception, space-wise, time-wise. Yeah, space-wise order, time-wise order, no contradiction, no conflict. Now we look at the universe. For example, look at the universe now. It's set, outset, is perfectly in order. Yeah? In relation to each other is perfectly, purposefully arranged within an order. And it is changing, and is changing also perfectly arranged within an order. Can you imagine? Double side. Changing within an order. The order is changing, but changing within an order. And they say it happened by itself. The language is very heavy, but I cannot call them human beings. They are openly rejecting their human qualities, reacting it for I don't know what purpose, but whatever it is. I don't know what they are going to really fulfill by denying the reality of what they are experiencing and doing that. So, human beings need universal order in order to have a better or the best possible human life, personally and socially. Because we cannot live alone. We are always interacting with other people and interacting with others, not only socially, it means not only among human beings, but also among other created beings as well. What are my responsibilities towards other human beings, towards animals, towards plants, and also towards the inanimate beings, material beings themselves. What are my responsibilities towards them? Oh, as far as the necessity of the prophethood, the messengership, is concerned, we think that the messengers are bringing only what? The term is Sharia. It means to organize human life. No, it is a very, very small portion of the message. It is almost, you can neglect it. Because it is the result of the 99% of the message. How? If we discuss this, if you look at the message that the messengers bring to us, fundamentally what they do, they introduce human beings to the nature of existence, but according to language of the scripture, it is creation. Why? Because it is inevitable to accept that it is an act of creation, conscious act of creation, bringing into existence at every level. That's why, to keep the consistency, the scriptures speak about creation, khalq. But in the language of the Arabic Quran is a khalqullah. The Quran says, هذا خلق الله. This is Allah's creation. And bring one evidence demonstrating that anything apart from the creator of the universe apart from the creator of the universe, who is given existence, it means creating to something. That's the Quran's perennial or eternal claim. No one can do anything, and it's not the Quran claims this. Torah also claims this for how many thousands of years. Bring one thing, anything. When I think of the verse, it doesn't come to mind. Hada khalqullah, the original verse. Does somebody remember? Hada khalqullah. Sorry? Iruni ماذا خلق الذين من دونه Iruni ماذا خلق الذين من دونه. That's what the Quran says. Very clear language, very simple language. Look at the universe. This is the creation of the one who created, who is called God. Show me anything apart from him who brought something into existence. That, you know, Colette, you said that they are created, they are just using the created word, and you said also as a continuation of the same comment, using the order in order to explain how the things are happening. My problem, my fundamental human problem is not to learn how the things are happening. My human problem is why the things are happening and how they are happening demonstrates the purpose in their creation. So, for example, it is happening in this way. Why? What is it telling me? What is the message to my human qualities? What is the message to me? Because I ask the question, yes, I have to explain how the things are happening in order to get the answer to my human questions. Look, it is a deliberate action. I understood. And this deliberate action cannot be attributed to anything other than the creator of the universe. So why? You see what I mean? That's why some people misunderstand that science deals with how, religion deals with why. No. That's a complete, how do you say, to me, that corrupt idea. Through how, human question says, okay, how is it happening like that? Oh, it is a construction, perfect action. So, if it is a perfect action, what does it mean for me? If someone does not study how, cannot ask why. Because you don't know what it is asking. Do you understand the difference? So, for example, why does the universe exist? Well, I don't know. It exists like this. I have to investigate how the things are happening, which kind of qualities are appearing or demonstrating themselves through how they are coming into existence. And these qualities are related to me because I wonder why these qualities are there. What am I going to do with them? Because human innate nature asks the question, right? For example, you find something in your handbag. You say, how come it is in my handbag? Because, somebody must have put it. And you open that thing, you say, can we meet today, this afternoon? So some people, I don't think many people, but some people may be interested. Yeah, it's a meaningful sentence. After discovering that that is a meaningful writing, what you do, why this person wrote this meaningful sentence to me. But if you don't study that, don't study how these letters came into existence or arranged in a form of sentence, say that, why somebody has put it in my pocket. Why? Put what? Put what? This meaningful sentence. After discovering that this sentence is meaningful, requires a conscious will behind it, you start questioning why. We have to know that without asking how, we have no right to question why. That's why materialist people never ever ask the question how the things came into existence. So they don't feel the need why the things are happening in the way they are. Because if we don't really seriously and correctly study how the things are coming into existence, it requires a conscious will behind it, and then you question the reason of this conscious will, why he is making in this way. Because this human being, to ask this question, how and why, ingrained in the innate structure of human beings. So we ask them. This seems to be one of the essential elements in the methodology of investigating the creation. First, by attributing the conscious will in the existence of the universe to nothingness, the materialist people don't feel to ask the question why. Because there is no conscious will behind it. Why should I? Why? For example, accidentally happened something here. Why? I don't care. Accidentally happened. But if someone purposefully offers me the pencil and say that, would you like one? If I see that, or it is a conscious offer, what I say, why are you offering this one to me? And the human question is that. Now, that's why the materialist philosophy skips this step, which requires the acknowledgement of the conscious will behind how the things are happening. Skip that. On the other side of the argument, those people who think that they believe in God or the purpose of creation, because they don't have the foundation of how the things are coming into existence as a result of a conscious will, conscious choice, they say, okay, why this thing happened? Why is it here? Is it here to use, for me to use it? Because the things are there, for example. The why, they say there is no answer to why in the meta. But this is baseless. They say, oh no, you don't have to ask why. Study how for example, tree is growing and producing fruit. You will understand that it's happening like this and you just benefit from it. It's out there. You need it, benefit from it. Why do you bother about why? Maybe for your own satisfaction, personal satisfaction, you say, well, it is, I'm using it and I feel satisfaction when I use it. There is no need to go further. Just enjoy yourself on a daily basis. Eat it and enjoy yourself. That's it. Why do you keep asking why? This is, they say, this human weakness human weakness. They know that their life, they don't say their existence, their life is fragile. They know that they are going to die. They are frightened of it. There's a psychological motive behind it, they say. They are afraid of it because they don't like death. They want some outlet, if you like, or is it called outlet? Some explanation which relieves them by this explanation is saying that after we die we will be resurrected. There is no sign of it, they say. You die and you disappear because they define human beings in the form of animate being. So they see when we die, animate being is not animate anymore. You know that the word is used in a twisted way. Animate means something which has anima, which is spirit, ruh. Now, in the materialist language, it turned this animate being or anima into life, not spirit. So when you turn this meaning, this original meaning into anima, it means into life. So human spirit, the quality of the human spirit is ignored, and the concentration is made on quality of human life, animal life. Now, animal nowadays is reduced to what? Living being, not a human being. That's why they define human beings as what? Speaking animal, economical animal, social animal, thinking animal. They don't say that, yes, we have matter in our existence. Yes, we have life in our existence, but we have humanity, which is consciousness. Another reason, I emphasize on the importance of it a lot. But if someone hears me saying the same thing again, please don't fed up with it. Why they don't talk about consciousness? Because they cannot attribute consciousness to any matter. They made up, they fabricated their thinking abilities related to brain. Consciousness is related to what? It's made up. You can challenge this idea, but they have an excuse. Consciousness is related to what? No matter. There is no explanation for consciousness, the existence of consciousness. So what happens? Consciousness should be ignored. That's what we are, animal beings. That's why animate beings, describing human beings or defining human beings as animate beings, turn it into living being, not a being which has spirit, which has soul. Do you understand the trick? So they are very tricky, very tricky. You know, according to the teachings of the Quran says Satan is very smart. It can trick with human beings. It means really who's Satan, it's an out of question, but it is very smart. But the Quran also describes that the satanic whisperings are coming from, but it's a figurative language, jinns and human beings, min al-jinnati wan nas. So we have to pay attention to what ideas come from human beings. We see them. That's their whisperings, their spellbinding language. We have to watch out. Okay. So that's why the text straight away speaks about laws and systems by human beings cannot satisfy the universal need of humanity. Impossible. Expectations of humanity. So they cannot really properly restrict human beings' innate aggression. Right? Because we have the choice to be just, to be unjust. Right? We have the choice. So how can I restrict the unjust tendency in the human beings? How can I do that? Only the one. It says this universal needs can only be provided by one who has universal qualities. Who has the universal qualities? All human beings cannot have, even if they get together, they cannot have universal qualities because they don't know first. We don't know first the quantity of human feelings. Second, we don't know, second, the quality of human beings, where they end. We don't know. And we don't know every human being's unique quantities and qualities. Unique quality. Every man is different. No one shares the same feelings, human questions. Right? We have a common ground, but not exactly the same. Similar, but not exactly the same. And also, none of the people can predict what will happen 100 years later. 1,000 years later to human society, human beings. How the society will develop, they don't know. But they have to be what? Outwardly set up certain laws according to the general trends of the people and keep changing, adapting themselves to the new events. But one thing is very important. We mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. I don't know, last week or the week before, I think we mentioned here. They cannot claim any power to impose the law in order to satisfy humanity or human beings that they have to obey this order. Not the order must provide necessary requirements in order to satisfy human beings, but at the same time, the order must have a legitimate power behind it, so the human beings will feel obliged to follow it. We said the Sharia is based on this. It means laws introduced by the prophets based on what? Superiority of the one who is introducing these rules to human beings. Who is it? The creator, conscious creator of the human beings, who knows it. And you have to act in this world in acknowledgement of this conscious being as to be obeyed, which is called worship. Do you understand that? If someone doesn't have the notion of worship, his obedience of the law will be reduced to obedience of a secular human-made law. Even he prays, even he fasts, even he or she gives to charity, even he or she is, acting in a humanitarian way. Do you understand the significance of this? If someone repeat, oh, we studied this before in great detail. Actually, I just felt that we have to refer it now because without accepting the authority who has the power to not impose but to introduce the regulations to human life, personal and social human life, I cannot really be satisfied in following these laws because why should I? I have to acknowledge the authority who is introducing these laws to me, these principles to me, because he has the right to do that. And who can be or what can be this authority? This authority can only be the one who gave you existence. So the one who gave you existence requires what? To be acknowledged as a superior being, and as far as your existence is concerned, your existence belongs to him. He has the right to operate on you. Now, for example, there are laws out there. Do I feel that my existence belongs to the one the people who live or who legislate the laws, introduce the laws in White House? Have they given me my existence? Do they know my human feelings? Roughly, in a general sense, for now. Tomorrow, no, they don't know. So, do I feel obliged to obey them, but not because of the law enforcements? You know, if you don't oblige, they put you in prison. If you don't follow the law, they put you in prison. That's obligation. For example, they say, clean up after your dog. It is law. Have you signed this? How ridiculous it is? Because it is law, you have to clean up. Not because you respect that this is not human. You understand? It is law. So the law is imposing itself with no reason, with no authority, just blind force, police force. Fine up to $300. That's what they can do. They threaten you with $300 fine. But they don't say, look, you have to be obliged to obey the rules introduced to you by your creator, who holds your existence. So that is why, in order to have a legitimate authority of the law that you are following, you have to respect this authority. In order to be able to respect this authority, you have to be convinced that, yes, you acknowledge him as the one. I am in debt of my existence to him. That is called worship. Without establishing the concept of worship, introducing the law and practicing the law becomes purposeless, secular. We call it turning the Sharia laws into secular law. Quality of the secular law. That's what's happening now. That's what's happening now. It's very dangerous. We have to wake up. We have to follow the law in order to fulfill the worship of the introducer of the law. You understand? Not because I'm afraid of him that he will fine me with $300, which is the equal language in the interpretation of the scripture, putting you in Jahannam. hell, punishment. To avoid the fine, I have to clean up after my dog. To avoid the fine, nothing to do with worship. It is don't to think that in order to avoid the fine, I am praying. How ridiculous it is. Inhuman. I always confuse unhuman or inhuman. Inhuman. How inhuman it is. Because of the fear of hell, I am praying. Oh, can you imagine? Because of the fear of the punishment, I have to do it because otherwise I will be punished. What is the difference between obeying the law, secular laws, human-made secular laws, because of the punishment? That's why you are not parking there, because it's illegal. Otherwise, let's say there is no fine. What would you do? You park anywhere you want. Because there is no respect. We have to understand this kind of delicacy in the structure of the belief system that is introduced by the scriptures, or in the practical terms, by the Quran or Torah or whatever the source attributes itself to a divine source. That's why the text goes into, we need divine, what did it say? Divine law. But we don't need law. Be careful. Language is very important. We need law, but this is our animal side. Not a human being. We need divine law. But in order to, it doesn't mean that we need Sharia. No. Yes, we need Sharia with the consciousness that it is divine, which is this law. By obeying this law, I am fulfilling what? My worship. My worship. Not I am saving myself from hell. It means punishment. So, not everybody, but certain people are very much aware of it, and they emphasize on the importance of performing or following the law, requirements of the law introduced by religion. We should never refer it to the punishment of hell or reward of paradise. We have to do it, they say it, for the sake of God, which really is a vague language. What does it mean? For the sake of God, to make it clear, in order to worship the authority of this, or the source of this law. It should turn into a worship form. Worship form means admiring, willing to do it because you are obliged your existence to him. Do you understand? I belong to you. I am listening to you. I am sami'na wa ata'na, very much misused language of the Quran. Sami'na wa ata'na, the Prophet read something or said something, I heard it and I obeyed it. No. Sami'na wa ata'na, it's not that Prophet said or the Quran said and I obeyed. No. I learned this law is introduced to me by my Creator. Of course, I have to admit that my existence belongs to him. That's ita'ah. That's obedience. We heard and we obeyed. That is obey. Obey means really fulfill your obligement, your acceptance, your recognition of the fact that your existence belongs to him. Of course, it is a call from my Creator, whether he punishes me whether he rewards me regardless, I do it because he's my honor. Because, very fundamental basis, my existence belongs to him. Get it? That is why the law must have the quality of divinity, divine law. So but in implementation of the law, what does it mean? Implementation of the law. For example, the law says, the Quran says, if you think that you belong to me, you'd better pray. How you pray really doesn't matter. But do you do that in order to ta'ah? You heard that he is saying pray. Yeah, okay, sami'na. We heard. Now, ta'ana, it's very common language in the Quran describing all the attitudes of the prophetic message. All the prophets said the same thing. كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله. There is no difference between the message of any prophets. وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا. All of them said the same thing. It means human nature is the same. All out of the, how do you say, or along the human history. All of them said that the prophets said in the language of the Quran, and also believers who are followers of the prophets said, we heard and we obey. What did you hear? Doesn't really matter the content of what you are hearing. Doesn't really matter. What really matters is, are you acknowledging the authority, worthiness of the one who is introducing this law to you? That's worship. That's called worship in the language of the scripture. For the sake of worship, for the sake of, in Arabic, ubudiyya, you have to pray. For the sake, while you are praying, let's say, everyone knows this common example. In this building, the Qibla is this way. Yeah? And the voice said, this way, this way. We are on the other side of the building. Yeah? For this way. Okay. Yeah, this way. You heard that the law says, or the requirement is, in your practical life, you have to turn to Qibla. Right? But you heard this. Qibla is this way. But your intention is to obey. Obey the order. But you didn't know this Qibla was this way, but you turned this way, thinking that this is the Qibla. What happens? Is your prayer accepted or not? According to law again, introduced divinely. Sorry? It is accepted. You see? The content of the law is not important. Essentially not important. But if you deliberately say, no, I'm not going to turn to Qibla, this is the Qibla, but no, I will turn this way. It means you heard, but you disobey. That's what the Quran describes. There are certain people who have been introduced the law, divine law, and they heard and they say, Sami'na wa asayna. It is possible. It's an option for a human being. We heard and we are rejecting, rebelling against it. You ask me, oh my Creator, because they are taking the source, taking the scripture as a source in the description of the Quran. It's very interesting. You heard, you hear, but you do say, no, I'm not going to do it. I will do it this way, according to what I want, not my Creator want. Then what it turns out to be not worship, but disobedience. Although they use the scripture. So if we act while we are obeying the laws, divine laws, according to our wishes, it loses the sense of worship. But Semi'na wa asayna, we fall into this group. We heard and we are disobeying. We are not accepting. Do you understand? What is important? As long as you keep the notion, the consciousness of worship, the content of what you do is not important. While you are fasting. Your intention is to obey the law in order to respect the lawgiver, worship the lawgiver. But something happened that you forget the requirements of fasting, which is not eating, within a certain period of time. You are expected not to eat, but you forget that. But your intention is out there. And you start eating, what happens? The content of the order says you shouldn't eat. But physically, you are eating, what happens? According to the divine law again. Sorry? Nothing. You see, the content is not important. It doesn't mean that we should knowingly disobey it, but our emphasis must be on the importance of the consciousness of worship, not on the importance of the content of the law. You see the difference? That helps you a lot to understand. But the Quran says to do it this way, to do something this way. Oh no, how can I do it in this century? It is not important. Simple example. 5 times a day. Oh, come on, in Manhattan, how are you going to, if you are working in Manhattan, how are you going to pray 5 times a day? Okay, if you are working in a company, the company, you signed the contract from 8 to 5, okay, and you have only a break, lunch break from 12 to 1, and I cannot do anything. How can I do that? Come on, it is impossible. Now, I'm not saying that we should justify it, etc., but primarily, we should pay attention not to the content of the law, but to the purpose of the introducing the law. It means hear the law and obey it not according to your own whims, but according to your consciousness of worship of the lawgiver. Try to do whatever you do, whatever you can, do your best, but don't lose yourself in the content of the law. You may understand, you may not understand the content of the law. Doesn't matter. Are you satisfied that the originator of the law, introducer of the law, deserves to be worshipped? The fundamental basis is, I'm not saying the other one is not important, but the fundamental basis this. Are you aware? Even you are doing, or even you are not, even you are performing the requirement of the content of the law, or even you are not performing the requirement of the law in the physical, practical life, but what counts? Your acknowledgement of the necessity of worship of the lawgiver. For example, if someone doesn't pray according to the law again, is it doomed to paradise, hell? But what makes a man to be doomed to hell is denial of the law. It means prayer, come on. It was 14 centuries ago, and it was for the white Arabian desert dwelling Bedouins. So we don't need that anymore. We have the precise clock, watch, very precise. We know what time is it, but they didn't notice whether it is the lunch time or it's the moon time, afternoon time. They need some sort of reminder. We don't need it. I can set the alarm clock or my time reminder. It can remind me it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock. I don't need to hear the azan. Do you see what I mean? But these people, this kind of interpretations comes from the lack of knowledge of the wisdom in the law according to human nature, human innate nature. So that, look, you need this kind of things in order to perform your duty of worship in a physical form. So we have to accept this. But if someone denies the law, it's different from if he did not perform it. So denying the law makes you subject to hell according to law. Not performing the content doesn't necessarily make you the subject of hell. This is what I mean. This is the law itself says. Deniers are going to be doomed, not the ones who are failing. The book itself, the law itself says, ask repentance and be aware that you are disobeying. Ask for forgiveness for this disobedience from the authority again. Yes, you ask me, for example, yes, you told me that I should pray 5 times a day, but I didn't. It was my failure. Please forgive me sincerely. And then I know I should do it. I'll try my best to do it, to use my free will in order to fulfill it. Right? Look for every opportunity to fulfill it, but until now I didn't do it. Okay. God says, don't be despaired of my mercy. I will forgive you. Don't worry about it. But be consistent from now on. Since you are aware of it. Yeah, be consistent from now on. Let us wrap up. What is some divine law was important. Yeah, we discovered this divine law which will enable human beings happiness, both spiritual and intellectual and physically. But I mean, we could cover that because if my whole existence belonged to this divine one who is introducing the law to me, do you get it? Or are you tired? If this law is introduced to me by the one who is my creator, my owner, right? He must know my physical needs, intellectual needs, spiritual needs, by definition. So there is no need to make analysis of, in this age, inheritance law is unfair. But it's fair to me, but I can explain it to you, but it's not class 4. Really, it is fair, but you have to understand the application of these laws according to the conditions. You shouldn't have a strict mind. No, because the practice of the law is flexible. What is not flexible? Straightforward worship. For example, belief in God and accepting that we have to worship him is not flexible. Whether it is true or not. If it is true, you have to do it. If it is not true according to you, you have to reject it and forget about it. There is no flexibility in it. But the practical side of the law is flexible within the conditions of the lifestyle or environment that you are living and the time. But what is flexible? The practical side of the law. or to make it more, clearer, practical side of the content of the law. It's flexible. That's why we call it fiqh. You know, the law, application of the law is subject to continuous interpretation. But sense of worship is subject to what? Nothing. Absolute. Whether you accept it or not, period. So don't worry about it. You can understand everything. It may not make sense to you because of your comparison with the environment around you and the practical practice of the life conditions, social life conditions in this time. You don't know how to adapt it because you are not expert on this subject, particular subject, how to implement the content of the law. Because we are not experts on it, you don't know how to really adjust it. And it may, you hear something from your, I don't know, community culture, said it must be so. There's no flexibility because they don't know how to make it applicable to your conditions. What they say, it must be this way and that's it, right? Because they don't feel they don't have the quality to adapt it to the conditions of the life. Some people try, yeah, we have to admit, whether they do it on a conditioned mind or a sincere mind, let's call it, really to obey the lawgiver. Well, now if you do it in this way, you will be obeying of the law, not adapting or there's another word. The word didn't come to my mind. Not really adapting the requirements of the values of the society. That's the values of the society that you are living in. But adapting the law to the conditions according to values of the worship mind. This is what I mean, the difference. Now there are some people who are really trying to adapt the fiqh rules according to the requirements of the society by following the values of the society. For example, values of the society is, you have to be rich, you have to make money. So, in order to be rich, you have to do this way. But in order to be rich, is it according to the spirit of the worship? No, it is according to the spirit of the values of the existing society that we have to be rich, we have to make money. Accordingly, they make the change. These are reformists, they are called. Not everyone like this, of course, but they are called, in principle, reformists. So these people make the reform, maybe. I'm not finger pointing anyone. I don't know. I don't know who is who and why they do it, what they do it. They follow the values of the materialist world, secular worldview. And then, what did I say? Reform the content of law accordingly, ignoring the worship dimension of it. We have to be careful. You may not understand the wisdom in summary, in the content of some laws because of our ignorance. We don't know how to adapt it. Because these laws are universal, should be adaptable to the conditions of every type of society. If it is universal, yes, as the language used, the perennial. If it is universal, actually, perennial, I don't know why they translate it in this way. Universal. If it is universal, it must be applicable and practical for me within the conditions of this society as well. Because the lawgiver knows that I will be here within the conditions of this society. It must be adaptable. but not according, I'm repeating and emphasizing on it, which is the very common trend, especially our Egyptian friend is not here. Egyptian scholars, they are very secularist. They adapt the law according to the values of the common culture of the secular society, not according to the values of worship. That's why I don't trust their verdicts, fatwa. It is not trustful, but definitely the law must be adaptable to any kind of society at any time of the history of human life, by definition. So it needs expertise. Okay. The last sentence of the paragraph we read, only through this that we can realize our potentiality, human potentialities, by following the divine law, divine underlying. Last, we had to stop. Your question, I think you want
No,
to.
it's fine. It was just basically a comment on the fact that I think the emphasis is on like why one should worship before they get into how to work the actions around it.
That's what we have been discussing,
Right.
and emphasizing on the importance of this. Yeah.
Because there are many ways of expressing appreciation or acknowledgement. And it is specific to your experience.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I should just wrap up. Really, we have to stop. I know it's 7 minutes already passed. It is a matter of priority, right? Worship has the prime factor, is the prime factor, prime aim, worship, sense of worship. But the secondary subject is the content of the law, but the content of the law must be adaptable, but according to the sense of worship, not according to worship of God and his divine values, not according to the values of the secular society. Nowadays, these people who are reforming the content of the law may not always be taking the divine values into account, but the values of the society, which is the common, I repeat, common trend among Egyptian scholars. It's very dangerous, and they are the leading scholars at the same time in the Muslim society. Okay, we have to be careful. Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. See you next Wednesday, Saturday. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله